The following is a presentation of the Retro Network.
Hello, SequelQuesters. This is a SequelQuest Rewind. Diving back into the archive to March of 2017, this is episode 35, a sequel to The Fifth Element.
Welcome to SequelQuest, the podcast where Adam, Jeff, and Jeremy invite you on a cinematic journey to create prequels, sequels, and reboots to your favorite movie franchises. Joined by special guests along the way. SequelQuest is go for launch, so let the adventure begin now.
Whether you're joining us from the top floor of Zorg Industries or the fabulous sandy beaches of Flusted Paradise, you have hit SequelQuest, and it's time to get into the action. I am one of your co-hosts, Adam, but we got three more amazing military specialists, aliens, and any other life form in the galaxy with us here to bring the entertainment to you, to your ear holes. That is you.
Oh, wow.
So introduce yourselves,
I'll take alien.
why don't you? Yeah, alien number one. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm Justin. I'm an alien.
Alien number two.
I guess I'm an alien as well, because my name is Jeff. That's not why.
Because your name is Jeff?
Well, I don't know. I was lost with. I thought I had an option.
And you, the blue creature in the corner.
No, you could be anything. You could be like one of those. Oh, I guess that's an alien.
Right.
The movie's full of aliens, so yeah, you're an alien because your name is Jeff.
And I'm Jeramy from Brooklyn.
Very
Alien.
nice. And in case you couldn't guess, and I don't know why you necessarily would be able to guess.
No, they would not guess.
We are going to be talking about The Fifth Element. That's right. From 1997, a fantastic Bruce Willis, Luc Besson joint. And,
Or we could be talking about aliens.
Oh, terribly disappointed that these people, 30 seconds in. No, wait, you're not doing Alien?
Right?
Alien Cubed?
Nope. We are
Resurrection?
taking that away.
So many Aliens films, Alien versus Predator. Let's just talk about Aliens. It's a great franchise.
About the Fifth Element. I know we all have sequels about the Fifth Element. We're doing an alien one.
Oh, it's so entertaining. No, but The Fifth Element, this is a film, a sci-fi film that has kind of just this distinction. It sticks in everybody's memory, even though there was only ever one film. No spin-off materials, no like expanded universe as far as I know. And frankly, on the DVD and the Blu-ray, not even a making of featurette. There is simply a fax track that plays and pop-up video style throughout the film. That's it. That's the special features. I don't know why they're keeping everything such a secret, but they are.
Wait, so Adam, have you watched the...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what's like the craziest one?
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you some facts up top, okay?
Okay.
So number one, that the costumes in this movie are fantastic, right? Can we all agree? The costume
was that
design.
a pop-up?
Well, it popped up. The guy in charge of costume design.
In Adam's view, yes, it was a pop-up.
That was a pop-up.
Right. The costumes are amazing.
Well, no, but the costumes were designed by the guy who designed Madonna's cone bra. Same guy.
Nice. I believe you.
Yes, absolutely. Also, you know, like all like the New York City, all the layers of traffic, and you get all the crazy, when like the cabs driving through different parts of New York. All of that and most of like the spaceships, everything.
Well, it's all CGI, isn't it?
No, they were practical models, and they just added on to it a little bit with CGI. And I was like, what? Like they actually just shot through models, like giant models,
cool.
They called them. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a very practical.
I think you can see it. Like that's the part of the look of the movie is it doesn't look CGI-y.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the nice things about it.
And to be fair, it was in the early days of the CGI kind of revolution. Everybody was getting their footing.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they did not try and fail.
It's crazy. Milla was 100% CGI. Like,
it continues to be.
First one they nailed.
Oh, the last thing I'll just drop on you is the Mondashauans, who were the big duck waddling aliens, the good guy aliens from the beginning. They actually, those costumes took 20 minutes to put on and 3 people had to help in assembling and putting the person inside. They could not see what was going on, so they had to have video monitors in there, and they would overheat after 45 minutes and had to be brought out. So Jeff and I, having worked at Disneyland, we know how that goes. I spent one day playing the Beast, and I said, never again. I'm done. Get me out of here. So
Seriously? They let you do only one day? That was my entire rookie year. Punk.
But
I will throw in, though, a couple
still
other
bitter.
Fifth Element. Exactly, it's so true. A couple other Fifth Element facts too is that one is the fact that Chris Tucker was not the first choice for Ruby Rod. The first choice, very apropos at this point, was Prince, and Prince didn't like the costume, so he decided not to do it.
a fashion.
I actually see that as being an issue.
Rest in peace, Prince.
Yeah.
It's true. And then the other one too, and I remember, well, this is I guess less of a fact, but I remember when it came out, Luc, what's his name?
Besson.
Luc, oh shoot.
No, Luc Perry.
from Luc Perry. Luc Perry got way too much billing for this movie. Everyone, like, literally every time you saw a poster, it said Bruce Willis, like Chris Tucker, and Luc Perry. Like, Luc Perry was like, he got title billing for this because he was Luc Perry.
And it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, but that was the height of 90210. I mean, that was 97. That was just a couple years in, and his star had not yet fallen. So yeah, he had Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Fifth Element, and then some cowboy, or I think it was actually a bull riding movie of some sort. But that was, I'm sure he pulled all the clout that he had. He's like, I get top billing in this thing. Me and Bruce.
I honestly didn't even notice him in this movie.
What? Billy? The guy sketching them onto Showans and shooting them with German guns?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, here's one. I'm just seeing this one for you, Adam, especially with your retro, etc. background. Is that, remember the one scene where they flame throw all of the parasites out of the landing gear?
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
What they used were boglins, which was a 1980s puppet toy, which is this little ball that looked like a creepy monster sort of a creature.
They were awesome. I had a boglin, absolutely.
There you go.
My cousin had like 12.
And they made their big screen debut here.
Oh, and they ruined them. They burned them.
Yeah.
Melted boglins.
But just when they burned them, they didn't really burn. They just sort of kept moving.
Yeah.
It's true. They wiggled.
I thought they were just those wiggly balls from the 90s. Do you guys remember those that had the little pegs all over them, and you would turn them on and they'd vibrate and like roll around? That's what I thought they were, just covered in some type of rubber.
Some sort of like fur.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, on that note,
with this one, yeah, and I don't know if we're going to talk about our own personal journey with this film.
I think we should.
But I know this was definitely a one that in high school and beyond, we watched this movie. I think all of us watched this movie many, many times. And the one that always stuck out, that for some reason, our favorite scene, if I recall, was the scene where Bruce Willis gets held up at his front door by the guy wearing the hat that looks like the doorway, or looks like the hallway.
Yes.
And we had a friend of ours, for those of us those listeners that knew Majid Abu Hussein, and still does, he's still with us. But he tended to be a little angry as a high schooler, and so his impression of that guy was classic for years, because he insisted that the guy was a very angry man. So it was his impression, "You like it?" was very angry.
Yeah.
That lived in our own lore for many a year.
Yes. And a fun fact about that guy, because we just loved everything. Give me the cash. You like it? We love that guy. We quote him all the time. It turns out, again, pop-up fact, he was the director of Gothica, starring Halle Berry. Like, he's a film director, that guy. He wasn't an actual, like, junkie that they hired to play a weird mugger. Like,
I really thought they hired an actual junkie on the street.
So,
fact.
Take it!
This is a real junkie.
I don't need it! Yeah, I mean, he's so good.
Took 8 days.
Wow.
But yes, I will just say about this film real quick is that every time I watch it, in addition to that recounting that over and over again in our high school days, my brother, he was always my gateway to sci-fi, my older brother. Like, he gave me Doctor Who novels when I was in junior high, like from the 70s, like Tom Baker era Doctor Who stuff. Like, he showed me 2001: A Space Odyssey when I was 10. And I fell asleep during like the acid trip thing. Like, so when this movie came around, he was always, he was like, we got to go see this Fifth Element movie. I was like, all right, I'm on board. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is like, for me, I felt like this is kind of like my Star Wars. Like, this is like, I felt like it was the beginning of something. It was a universe that was so dense and so full of like fantastic characters that seemingly had a backstory somewhere that we were going to hear about, and never did. And so like, I felt excited by the film and then let down that we never got more out of it, which is what makes it perfect for our show.
Because as opposed to saying that it's our Star Wars, because Star Wars, like, we're kind of prime territory for Star Wars as it is. But even more so, like, I feel like this is our Blade Runner, where Blade Runner was a really dark and broody movie, but it was one of those where it was just like, yeah, you were just thrust in the middle of this world and this universe, and that's why Blade Runner became such a huge big deal. And yeah, the same thing like you were saying, Adam, where it's just everything about this world, like, it's dirty and it's grimy and but yeah, it's very engaging and deep, and all the different characters have their own thing, and yeah, it really works on a lot of levels, I think.
Well, and I always say kudos to the casting director, because every extra, everybody is like so distinct. You don't even have to like know their character names. You're like, oh, the hawk-nosed general guy. Oh, pockmarked doctor guy. Like you just kind of reach out. You think of them, and you're like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. No worries there. Deaf famous pop star guy. Ray, whatever his face was. Like. Just like everybody you could like really identify without too much, difficulty. But they actually said that Luc Besson, the director, went to a bunch of like modeling shows and things like that, also to like pull like the very attractive extras, as you notice, like working the McDonald's drive-through window for the cops, and Zorg's secretary, obviously models. Kind of hard to miss. Plava Laguna, I believe, was also a model.
Actually, I'm pretty sure she's an opera singer.
Oh, an actual opera singer? Oh, okay.
Because I remember that was the one thing, and another friend of ours, Eric Zurcher, who absolutely adores this film and always has, he got the soundtrack to it, and I don't remember this specifically, but I seem to remember him saying from the soundtrack is that the entire song that she sings, she is actually singing it.
Wow.
And the entire thing is done completely without digital effects or any kind of like vocal whatever. And if you really listen to it, like, I cannot believe that that's actually a human voice. There's some parts that she does that just sounds like it's a computer. And so supposedly that was actually her. I mean, she only has one line anyway. So.
Practical effects, practical singing. This film is amazing. For those who don't know the actual story, Jeremy, why don't you fill them in with our IMDb plot summary?
All right, we had to go international with this one, from Rio de Janeiro. I don't speak Portuguese, so we're going to translate this into English. In the 23rd century, the universe is threatened by evil. The only hope for mankind is the fifth element, who comes to Earth every 5,000 years to protect the humans with 4 stones of the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and air. A Mondashawan spacecraft is bringing the fifth element back to Earth, but is destroyed by the evil Mangalors. However, a team of scientists use the DNA of the remains of the fifth element to rebuild the perfect being called Leeloo. Leeloo. I will need that for my pitch later. She escapes from the laboratory and stumbles upon the taxi driver and former elite commando Major Korben Dallas, who helps her escape from the police. Leeloo tells him that she must meet Father Vito Cornelius to accomplish her mission. Meanwhile, the evil uses the greedy and cruel Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg and a team of mercenary Mangalors to retrieve the stones and avoid the protection of Leeloo. But the skilled Korben Dallas has fallen in love with Leeloo and decides to help her to retrieve the stones. The end.
The end. Can I just ask everybody, who was your favorite character, aside from those of us who would choose the mugger in this film? Like, who did you enjoy most in your most recent watching?
Chris Tucker, easily.
Oh. And why, Justin? What do you love about Chris Tucker?
Because he's nuts, man. It's just like, kills me is that in most movies, you introduce a character halfway through or later than halfway through. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, if that happens, I'm usually like, what? Why? Who is this person? And why do I care? I did not have that thought because he came on and instantly it was this like, you couldn't take your eyes off him. And it was this just insane amount of energy just thrown at you. And it worked. It was such a great level to everything else that had gone, because everything else was so serious and crazy and wild, but very intense and very serious. And he was just this.
Yeah, knowing what we know now, I
great
think,
balance.
Yeah, we could be thankful it was not Prince, because I'm sure Prince would have taken 100% seriously. It would not have been that much fun. I'll be green. How green?
Well, it would have been, it would have definitely been different. But that's the other thing too, is that like Chris Tucker, I mean, before this, Chris Tucker had done Friday, and Friday kind of put him on the map. But this is what catapulted him to stardom. I'm like, after this, he did Rush Hour, and after this, he was everywhere. And yeah, it was just like he like no one expected, because Friday wasn't such a huge movie that everybody had seen it. So they were kind of like, who is this guy again? And yeah, he stole the show. But for me though, something about, especially like you said, Adam, I mean, obviously from the first time I saw it, Chris Tucker stole the show, but then now in subsequent watchers, I feel like Ian Holmes' performance as the priest Vito Cornelius, there's just something about, it's almost like he brings the heavy, where it's just kind of like he plays it as serious as he plays, what he does, and it just, I don't know, it adds so much to make it not just a ridiculous over the top sort of a film, I think.
Yeah, you're right. He does kind of bring a grounding nature to it, where he's like, he does have to do a lot of exposition, but he's very, entertaining, and you kind of respect his performance throughout. You're like, okay, he keeps my interest, and I'm enjoying watching him. Good. All right, we're good to go. I don't know. For me, like, I always look at, like, I think you look at Milla Jovovich and you're like, okay, she's not really doing much, she's just a pretty face or whatever she is. But honestly, in this movie, she does a great job. Like, she plays like, kind of like childlike, in the early stages. And then she has to play like vulnerable and innocent, but then she has to also kick butt, like she has so many different comedic moments as well that are fun. And so I feel like she deserves our applause, just for grabbing a hold of every moment she's given and not just wasting it. Big, oh, well, I'm just here and I'm in this outfit and I have orange hair, so look at me, like, so. And I don't know, and even like just her moment in the cab, when Korben's making that decision, do I turn her over to the police? Please help, you're just like, you feel for her in that moment. So I don't know. Good job, Milla.
Well, she did have to learn a whole nother language for that.
I forgot about that. Yeah, the director created a real language, told her to memorize it, and she literally had to be fluent in that language for the part, and they spoke to each other in that language.
Yeah, they just have conversations on set.
Yeah. And then they got married 7 months later.
Oh.
And divorced 2 years after that.
Well, we'll see, that language didn't last long.
Did not help. The language of love is what they should have been learning. Okay, Jeremy, what about you?
Probably just Korben, just because he's the grounding point on this whole crazy ride.
And Bruce Willis is pretty much always great. He's always Bruce Willis, but that's what we love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was his 30th film at this point. Can you believe this is film number 30 in Bruce Willis's career? And
no wonder he just plays this old guy that's just like, I'm too old for this. Yeah. Like, okay,
but is it
am I going to do this?
And can we just, since we've talked about the entire cast, just give a shout out to Gary Oldman, because he was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
I didn't fully realize that was him.
Jeremy's used to Commissioner Gordon.
That's how amazing he was.
Yeah, but his southern accent is pretty over the top, but he's such a good bad guy. Like, and he's
so many things about this movie are over the top.
That's true. Yeah,
exactly.
They play it
exactly, and even his limp. Like his limp is just so much. There's so much character. And,
yeah, but at the same time,
the scene where he chokes on the cherry is awesome.
Yeah, his limp actually changed legs multiple times throughout the film. Yeah.
Oh, I did not catch that.
There's one scene where he's walking and it hits every time on his right leg. You can hear the metallic limp, and then there's
that's the sound designer's fault.
Pop-up thing about that where that was on purpose.
Yeah,
actually asked him to change legs every few scenes.
All right, well, we've spent enough time just kind of BSing about this movie. Let's get down to business.
Yeah, baby.
Jeff, you want to start us off?
Sure. Mine would take place 5 years later, and Korben and Leeloo are still together. Not married, because that's weird if they got married, but they're just hanging out or whatever. I see them living on like a commune of some sort. It would have to be something kind of weird and futuristic-y, so like a commune of I don't know, like
space hippies,
free spirits, something. Not quite that level of commune. I was thinking again, like a weirdo. I'm not creative enough to come up with something weird where people would live together because they're all, I don't know, something. So, but anyway, I see them kind of living on something like that, where that they can just kind of, disappear and do whatever they do. Meanwhile, Ruby Rod is now running for president, and his main competition ends up being, we find out as the audience that whoever the main competition is actually an alien in disguise as a human, and he's part of this cult that the cult wants to bring about the end of the world through some ancient prophecy, and there's something along, that would kind of need to be fleshed out a little bit like that. But anyway, as part of the devious plan is to become president, the thing standing in the way is Ruby, who's also running. So they hatch a plan to kidnap Ruby. So Ruby ends up getting kidnapped, which then the government, secret service, special military, whatever force that used to recruit Korben, they figure, again, the only person for the job is the only person who is qualified in all of these various forms of transport and machinery, and that's Korben Dallas. So they go to find Korben, living on the commune. Leeloo now, has gained enough knowledge about human culture that she's not, that kind of naive or whatever she was in the first one, like childlike sort of a thing like that, but now it's gone the exact opposite way. She now has so much information that she is like completely unstreetwise, where it's just like 100% all like factual information, but she doesn't understand like the basic tenets of how to interact with humans and how to just the things that books can't teach you. Which on the other hand, Korben is the exact opposite, where he has very little kind of like textbook knowledge as far as culture and intellectual pursuits, but he's got lots of street smarts. So that kind of creates a little bit of a banter going back and forth about the way that they interact and the way that they deal with situations and stuff like that. So anyway, the government people find Korben and say, you've got to go and save Ruby because he's been kidnapped. So Korben then begins investigating, and so he kind of investigates the situation and finds out the different clues and stuff like that. Leeloo goes with him, but has absolutely no interest in any of that because she sees this as an opportunity to stretch her muscles again. So every time that he starts investigating or questioning people, she just ends up beating them all up. So that kind of creates a little bit more of a problem where he's got to try and question people before Leeloo can beat them up. And then that kind of goes back and forth. Eventually, the trail leads them to this like ancient temple, probably on a foreign planet somewhere with a lot of weird, I picture it like a jungly. Temples, for some reason, are usually in the jungle, I guess. So they're in a jungle, and then they have to kind of finagle their way through. There's got to be some sort of a final challenge. Nothing as cheesy as 5 Elements again, but something where they have to figure it out and probably combine between Korben and Leeloo to figure it out in order to save Ruby, and they do. The end.
Yay!
Ruby is the MacGuffin.
Ruby saved.
All right.
The next fifth element. No, that's good though. So President Ruby. But I guess that's what you did not tell us though, Jeff. Does Ruby win the election? Ruby gets the
Well, we don't even get there. I mean, that would be my guess, but we don't get there. Though the one thing I would say that you would have to do, and I would want to do anyway, is have lots of like scenes of Ruby and his captors, driving them crazy because he is Ruby Rod, and so that gives Chris Tucker a chance to be Chris Tucker still.
Jeff's nameless pitch. We got it.
All right, Justin, give us a pitch.
Awesome. So I had a few ideas. One was I just wanted like a Ruby Rod spinoff, kind of like a, just a half-hour comedy series about Ruby Rod doing his radio show. I think that'd be pretty awesome. I also thought about like a series of Leeloo's origin story, but then I just wrote a movie about Leeloo's origin story, and I called it Leeloo. So Leeloo is a late teens girl living in a mining planet with her parents and fiance. Opens on grandma telling her a story of a great evil that will be unleashed on their world and take everything that they love. So she must cherish her family and friends because they can disappear in an instant. In the story, there is one who must sacrifice themselves in order to save the ones they love and vanquish the evil from their planet. So the company that has financial control of the mining planet, led by the charismatic leader Poe, are warned by the miners to only dig so far into the planet and only take what resources are needed. However, Poe orders the miners to keep digging, and they find a glowing red mineral that kills the first miner that strikes it. When the leader takes a tour of the facility to see the new mineral, he is trapped inside when the mine collapses, only to emerge as a powerful, flaming being bent on destroying everything. Leeloo loses her family and her fiancé, but in a war with the now possessed Poe, and with nothing to lose, Leeloo leads the rest of the planet in a war against the evil that has emerged from the planet itself. In the end, Leeloo learns that she must sacrifice herself to Poe so that she can banish him from their planet, turning him and her into solid stone.
Oh, okay.
Adam, why don't you go before me? I've got a pitch this week.
Oh, hey, Jeremy's bringing it in, and I, as usual, I have my 2 pages, my page and a half, but I'm actually just going to give you the greatest hits of my pitch here, which I have called, understandably, the 6th element. So, yeah. So basically, at this point, Korben and Leeloo. It's a few years later, and they're pregnant with a baby. Leeloo's about to give birth, and there's a prophecy associated with it that Father Cornelius gives them that this baby is going to bring peace to the galaxy. But Korben he flies those intergalactic spaceships to get people to floss to paradise. He's happy with their life. They're not really looking for any more adventure. But just as they get the prophecy, Leeloo goes into labor, so there's a crazy ride, through all the traffic to get her to the hospital on time. You get that again. And as they reach the hospital, we shoot out into space, and we see the military actually saved a fragment of Leeloo's bone because they want to clone her to create super soldiers. So when they do their first test, there is a clone that is born that names itself Lulu. So we have Leeloo, and then we have Lulu. Okay, so Lulu, as innocent but being a warrior, instantly kills all the medical staff that brought her to life. And just so you know, Lulu has purple hair instead of orange and red eyes instead of blue, but it's otherwise Leeloo's twin, definitely played by the same actress. Yeah,
perfect.
Evil twin.
And so what happens is Lulu is born at the exact same moment as Korben and Leeloo's baby, who's a daughter that they name Shriran. They call her Shri for short. And basically what happens is as soon as the baby's born and the clone is born, one of Leeloo's irises in her eye turns red. So now what happens is Lulu can see through her eye and sees the baby and is very confused because she doesn't know anything about the world. She doesn't know what's happening. And she is now she's kind of got this strange vision that pops into her head that turns out it's put there by Mr. Shadow, who we thought was destroyed, this evil of the galaxy. And he creates this vision that shows that the child is actually going to grow up and destroy the world, which puts this fear and this hate into Leeloo, and so she becomes very vicious, and Mr. Shadow tells her basically, you are the sixth element, you must destroy this child to save the universe. But really what he wants is a vessel that he could go into and be reborn. So what happens is Leeloo takes a ship and she's flying out in space. She gets captured by some Mangalore pirates. She defeats their captain, becomes their leader, so now she's got an army behind herself. And in the meantime, as they get closer and closer to Earth, because she's in pursuit of the baby, as they get closer to Earth, it causes Leeloo to feel weak, and then she falls into a coma. Everybody's worried. They notice the red eye, but they don't know what it means. And then there's a bunch of shenanigans. They take Leeloo to the hospital, and the baby's obviously there with them, and a Mangalore shapeshifter squeezes down into baby size, and they switch the baby. So Leeloo takes, Sriran to the temple from the end of the last film to do her ceremony there. And meanwhile, they go home with the baby, Mangalore shapeshifter. So there's a bunch of hijinks of, Father Cornelius. Ruby Rod shows up with a bunch of age-inappropriate gifts for the baby and is very awkward around, doesn't know how to handle children. And,
of course.
And Korben's a new dad, so he doesn't know what's going on. So all the weird stuff, the baby's very hungry, the baby's very angry, the baby's very stinky. They just chalk it up to inexperience, And finally what happens is we find out that Leeloo can also see through the red eye and see what's going on with Leeloo. And as Leeloo passes in front of this reflection pool with the baby at one point, Leeloo sees her baby crying, and it wakes her up out of the coma. So there's a big escape from the hospital scene, and at the same moment that Leeloo's escaping from the hospital, the Mangalore shapeshifter can't keep it together anymore and turns from the baby into the giant dog alien. There's a big fight in Leeloo and Korben's house, and it ends with Leeloo crashing through their window and killing the Mangalore and tells everybody, "Get in." So that's my weird Leeloo voice. And they all get in this ship, and they fly out to the temple. And when they get there, the ceremony's kind of already in progress. They have to fight off a bunch of the Mangalore army people. Leeloo gets through and has a battle with Leeloo and tells Ruby to go save the baby. But when Ruby kind of interrupts the ceremony, the evil jumps into him instead. So he turns from Ruby Rod into Black Star Sapphire, becomes this ridiculous evil alien overlord creature, and is now attacking his friends, injures Korben, disintegrates Father Cornelius, and everybody's just like heartbroken, and they basically are losing any hope that things could get better. And just as that's kind of happening, everybody's giving up. Then we see that the baby Sriran starts to giggle. And everybody's like, what's happening? And she just gets super cute, starts glowing, this golden glow. And everybody looks at her, and they just it warms their hearts. Everybody starts believing again that they can stop what's going on. She glides into Ruby's arms and removes, cleanses the evil out of him, and he turns back into himself. But the evil jumps into Leeloo now and is starting to take her over. And we see that she was being affected by the baby as well, and realizing that she was wrong. And she... basically, Mr. Shadow is trying to take her over. We see that she's scared. Leeloo and the baby are trying to comfort her, and then just as she's about to be overtaken completely, she sees the real vision of what Sriran, the baby, is going to accomplish to bring peace to the universe, and she gains this power, this hope that is the actual sixth element, and it blasts Mr. Shadow into pieces again, but it takes Leeloo with him. And so from there we find out that yes, the sixth element was hope, and now they will go forward, and basically the family takes a nativity pose against a starry space sky as credits roll.
Oh no,
they're very big into symbolism in these films. Come on,
a little bit
there you go, the sixth element, ladies and gentlemen.
Any questions?
Amazing. Anything that ends in nativity.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Jeremy, hit us.
So then
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
So it sounds like then the sixth element is hope, or the sixth element is that what we're landing on?
So the other part is that the idea was supposed to be that we thought the sixth element was Leeloo and that it was hate or fear. And we thought that that's what was being referenced to, but then at the end it would be revealed that it was actually hope is what they were speaking about. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the idea.
It's a little cheesy because we haven't touched on the fact that let's be honest, the end of the first one was like the cheesiest thing I may have ever seen.
Right.
That the fifth element is love. Tell her that you love her. Come on now.
Yeah.
So I like it. Cheese.
Yeah, I had to keep it in keeping with the universe, right? That's how they operate.
Lay on the cheese. All right, I have got a pitch here. Okay, this is titled The Return of the Fifth Element. 50 years removed from the events of the Fifth Element, we join the story of Wayne, a young man in his mid to late 20s in New York City, freshly removed from military service due to losing his arm and part of his leg in a mission gone wrong, and as the lone survivor protecting a quadrant of space. He's been fixed with an advanced cybernetic prosthetic that feels almost like the real thing, almost like he's whole again, but still trying to find his way as a civilian. To clarify, the DNA rejuvenation chamber they used on Leeloo was decommissioned and destroyed following the last movie so that no one could duplicate and corrupt another version of Leeloo. I ixnayed your whole movie there, Adam. We are introduced to Wayne telling this background story to his companion that evening, a gorgeous redhead by the name of Lola. As they wander through his home, located back on the ground where the fog used to have hold, he begins to tell an interesting tale of the death of his ancestor, an adventurer of sorts. We cut to a flashback scene in 1965, an establishing shot zooming out from black to seeing a shot of his back. We never see his face or the front of the grizzled old ancestor in leather-clad getup and hat. He speaks to his colleague through whose eyes we are watching. Nothing shocks me anymore. Abruptly, everything transitions to this man's first-person view. A creature steps out from the wooded shadows into the light, and the creature steps right up into the face of the man, breathing heavily, fogging the view briefly. Unbelievable, exclaimed the unshown colleague from off-camera. Many in his day thought of this beast as a myth, the elusive and mythical Bigfoot. The ancestor extended what he held in his hand, showing a crystal skull. Hold on, it gets way better.
What's happening?
It lit up and began to glow, and that's when the beast lashed out at him. It knocked the skull out of his hand and began beating on him incessantly. We see the view getting blurrier and smaller as the darkness closes in. Before total blackness sets in, we see the blurred form of the beast pull out a weapon, and it means to vaporize the ancestor. Bright lights come on behind the creature, and a futuristic engine revs up. The camera angle changes as the beast pulls out the weapon to the third-person view of the colleague, who's now far behind the ancestor. As the beast is vaporizing him, the view changes to shaky cam, running away from there. With a quick glimpse back to see if he's being followed, a quick look down to see the skull in hand, and another glimpse back to see the craft flying off, we return back to the present day in 2318 as he wraps up the story by opening up a false wall in his house to show off the crystal skull. Returned to his predecessors shortly after the incident, and it's been passed down through his family since that night. He explains that his ancestor had been ridiculed and tormented by being under a government cover-up of the incident, unable to tell the world that he'd saved the Earth by using it on an alien race in the 50s, and that the general public for the following centuries, and even up until that day, believed the crystal skulls were worth nothing. This because they never knew how to use them. He laughs and closes the wall, joking it off as though they were ghost tales they'd been taught as children and forced to pass on through the family. They head out to the balcony for dinner, taking in the fresh air. His lady friend Lola remarking on the clean air down there and giving background on how wonderful it was that they found a way to clean up the fog, practically bragging about her own mother's work in doing so. We get some exposition on what's happened in the last 50 years that had passed. Turns out that this gal is the granddaughter of Leeloo, Leeloo and Dallas settled down under false identities, trying to lay low, while the government began performing research on Leeloo and her unique DNA to try to find a way to cleanse and fix the Earth. None of their attempts worked very well, or for very long, until Leeloo's own daughter, Lucille, began working with them at age 18, cracking the code on genetically modifying animals and plants that would clear the fog. Here's my pitch for Adam. Turns out genetically modified cows flatulating on farms neutralized the fog and began the healing process on the Earth.
Oh my goodness.
A little sandworm humor there. As she worked on this, she grew close and married a colleague, a fellow soldier and scientist, and produced this wonder of an offspring that we have today in Lola. While they chat, Lola keeps glancing back towards the wall where lies the skull. Something about it is calling to her. She's drawn to it. Maybe that's why she was drawn to Wayne. Almost like a similar energy is emanating from both of them. Suddenly, a shadow blocks out the fading sunlight. They look up, and Wayne remarks under his breath, "No, it can't be. Crap, it's them." Smaller ships come off the larger ship and begin tearing up the city above them in the distance. He can't quite believe it, but yet he believes it down to his core. It's the ship that he's seen in his nightmares. They've come back. At that moment, his phone rings. It's a classified number. The authoritative voice on the other line grabs all of his panicked attention. "Lieutenant Jones, your Earth needs you." Some banter back and forth happens between them over the phone, Wayne saying he's no longer active duty due to his injuries, and the voice refuting him, stating it isn't about that. The voice states that through the generations since his ancestor's untimely death, the government kept track of who in the lineage kept possession of the skull. This was why they recruited him originally, and why the Earth needs him now. The stories passed down through his family gave the clues to the secret of the skull and where to find how to use it to protect the world from these specific invaders. He jumps up from the table, grabs Lola by the hand, and rushes back into the house. He reopens the wall, throws the skull in the backpack, and they rush to his vehicle. Lola questions where they are going in such a rush, and his response is to find the instructions. They head out on a futuristic archaeology adventure to find the key to using the skulls. Hijinks ensue. They make a couple stops before heading to his ancestor's grave to unlock the code. And turns out, Lola is the key to unlocking the full potential of the skulls. Her alien race were the ones who placed the skulls here in the event that they were needed as weapons long, long ago. Her people tried to wipe out the big-footed beast after it killed Wayne's ancestor, hence so many UFO reportings in rural areas in the decades that followed the incident. The Bigfoot beasts were placed here originally by her people as protectors of the skulls, preventing the lower life form humans from using them, until the humans developed beyond the big-footed creatures' learning capacity. Then most of the skulls were collected and removed from the Earth, and the beasts killed off by Lola's people. They unlocked the power, and boom, saved the day.
Now that is a SequelQuest deep cut mashup, people. That is...
Yeah.
You better go back to the archives and catch up with everything else. That was pretty wild. That was... Woo!
It was a much better Indiana Jones movie than
That's
that
awesome.
Crystal Skulls thing.
Yeah, future indie. Yeah, Descendants. Justin, do you feel justified now? Crystal Skulls were used for something of worth?
Nope. It's still a terrible movie.
I've still never watched that movie, so...
Wow.
Not Jeremy's movie. The Crystal Skull movie.
Oh, yes, I see, yeah.
So my vote is totally for Leeloo. If we can get rid of aggro Chris Tucker, I'm down for Adam's movie.
Well, we can just throw in that Chris Tucker running
Hands
for
down.
president.
Really,
yeah.
I like the evil Milla thing. I just think that's a really cool concept. I like that.
Yeah, I it just seemed to me like, I don't know, it seemed like sort of like obvious or cliche, but then at the same time, like just so perfect. You know, it's just like, let that.
Yeah, and like the thing that it ends in hope, like, yeah, because the last one ended in love.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Exactly. Right. And then it's, yeah, again, because for me, when you first said the sixth element, I kind of groaned because I'm like, oh, no, you can't. But then, like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it, you know? And so I like it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a pretty easy decision. Like I said, I don't know.
So now, the one thing, though, and that's where I feel like, especially with some of the rest of ours, is the conflict. Like, bringing Mr. Shadow back in again. I mean, I got what you were saying with the whole hate thing, but I know, like you know, Jeramy's whole thing is there's definitely a lot of conflict. There's a lot of, you know, intrigue, and this is why this needs to happen. Mm-hmm. So that would be my only thought, is that we could spice that up a little bit. Give Leeloo, or maybe some reason for Leeloo and Leeloo to come into conflict, because that's got to be the climax, is the two of them fighting each other.
Right, of course, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think you can actually just do away with Mr. Shadow altogether and have Leeloo be the. That name is great.
Just the polar opposite.
If she can she can be the evil, like she's the bad guy, but she thinks she's doing justice or whatever,
Yeah, so just misguided because she was born into this world without understanding and no one to guide her. She should not exist. It's therefore, there's just an evil. There's something wrong in her coding. So I could see that. The only thing is, okay, so do Korben and Leeloo have a baby? Is that necessary? That we keep that in there? Like, are we still saying there's all these prophecies about bringing peace, but Leeloo misunderstands?
I think that the baby can be, like, the end can be that the baby inspires hope, but I think that, like, there's something that Leeloo has that makes her unstoppable, that the baby takes away from her so that Leeloo can fight her and destroy her.
Yeah, okay. I could see that.
I was kind of thinking, too, that with the whole almost like misleading thing, where it's kind of like it's so ridiculous that you almost buy into it, that the fifth element would give birth to the sixth element. And it's just kind of like, it's so cheesy, but it's just like when that turns out not to be the case, like if that's, and then even to have, where there's like the baby and the clone and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, the other
I
way
like that's good.
I sort of came about it at one point, I took it out, but was that just that Leeloo is jealous of the baby, and when she's rejected by the parents that she thinks should be hers, that is what kind of drives her insane, sort of thing. And then maybe she just gets a question that becomes, okay, well, why does she want to destroy the world then? But maybe it's just that I don't have a place here and I don't want anybody else to have a place here. Again, she's just misguided, and maybe she gets either the Mangalors or some other type of alien race on her side. Like, they see her power, like Jeff is saying, she has something that she can do, and they say, we'll use her to get revenge on this planet or whatever it is they want.
Right. Well, what if, because I know, like, in yours, Adam, didn't you had them, they were cloning, they've had an extra piece of her DNA, so that's why they were cloning to make another one to make a super soldier, and it was the government. What if instead of, like, because that's the other thing too, is the Mangalors were like, thugs,
right?
And that was kind of the whole thing in the Fifth Element, was that they were thugs that were then thinking for themselves, and then they just caused trouble or whatever. So, like, what if instead of making the government maybe not necessarily the bad guy, but the one that creates them, what if they, like, Mangalors go back to the planet where they first crashed, the Montechiwan, and they get the DNA and they sell it to another alien that has this, bad motive for doing it. So now you've already got, like, her being raised bad.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that definitely works. Again, you have the new bad guy that takes advantage of this technology in this situation that they've realized. Yeah, no, I think that works out pretty well. Because again, like you say, bringing back Mr. Shadow, I knew it was kind of uninventive. Mr. Shadow gets killed again. It's kind of less exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree. You just have a new alien race or alien conqueror that wants, they want access to these super soldiers or whatever it is.
And they're the Gary Oldman's relations.
They have to be some Zorgs.
I thought about that.
Zorg.
Is like, could we come up with some way that Zorg has somehow survived? But I don't think so. I think, but to replace him and to get somebody to get an equally good, because there's plenty of actors out there. The sad one is the number two one after Gary Oldman that I would love to see. I mean, we're not getting into casting yet. I'd love to see Alan Rickman. He would be such a perfect bad guy to follow, but obviously that can't happen.
And it would be a great showdown.
But yeah, you get somebody with that gravitas.
versus Bruce Willis again, which would be great had we been able to make that happen. So, okay. Well, I mean, what should we get into casting then? I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, pretty much everybody's coming back, right? So,
Well, but do we have the
we gotta
plot?
cast
I'm a little
Leeloo.
nervous. Do we have the plot down?
well, I think the plot is that we have this new, whoever this new bad guy is, hires the Mangalors to steal the chamber and get the bone
Well,
matter.
I'm sure
the
they could
DNA.
probably make another one, or
Yeah.
he's made his own,
Would
and
it-
it
yeah.
doesn't fully.
Right. For what purpose?
Right. It's
What?
probably not as good a version of the rejuvenation chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And when he rejuvenates her, it corrupts the DNA of sorts.
Yeah. Well, if you want it, it could be a descendant of the Luke Perry character from the first film, who started a cult
Totally.
that was
Well,
anti
he'd be
Showing.
an ancient
Or
descendant.
Aziz.
Yeah.
Well, but why is the bad
Aziz.
guy? Why is the
Aziz and the Warriors of Light.
yes? Why is the bad guy cloning her though?
Well, I think the idea is just that the bad guy
Power.
is aware of the power of the fifth element, and maybe is misunderstanding, the ancient texts, and is saying, oh well, if I could clone my own fifth element, that I could have the power to rule the universe. And I mean, it doesn't have to be like a real super deep reason. It's just like, here's this person that wants
Okay.
absolute power through the universe and sees that
So
as
that's-
the gateway.
Okay, so the conflict is the sixth element. Okay.
Right. And then ultimately everything that's happening, but yeah, and then I think what if the resolution is hope, then that person's actions, throughout the film also need to somehow, again, taking away hope and belief in the future from people. So maybe there is like a very large destruction. Maybe Tiny Lister comes back, and as the president, he gets killed, and Father Cornelius gets killed, like I said. So there's like important people are dying and people are disappointed. I don't know, something like that, because it just seems like it needs to be maybe a little bit more widespread for there to be kind of the redemption at the end, unless it's just Leeloo being redeemed and the bad guy dies.
Right. Well, we could do it where some, like, the bad guy, the big bad guy is like another businessman, and this is the one that takes over Zorg's empire because now Zorg is dead, and so he buys him out, and he's even worse. And then that would make, because it's the same thing with Zorg, where Zorg was definitely taking away people's hope and everything by firing millions of people and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I mean that could be something. I don't know, like the businessman angle. Again, if we want to move away from it or we want to return to it, because like you say, if it's just they were trading Mr. Shadow for just another Zorg, then you know what I'm saying. And Zorg wasn't even really the big bad. It seems like this guy needs to be more formidable to begin with, but just needed that extra, playing card. He needed that extra, power in the game to accomplish what he's trying to accomplish. And it could just be that
You could
he
go
has
for
been
like a
threat.
Galactus type, like world eater.
Maybe
big bad guy.
Well, I was gonna say it's too Green Lantern. I was gonna say maybe he feeds on despair and lost ambition
sure,
or
yeah.
something.
That's more or less where we're heading with this. So.
Yeah, kind of sounds.
I
that
guess,
way.
but then again, we're back to Mr. Shadow again.
Oh, Mr. Shadow.
All right, so other alien race then.
Yeah. What's their chance?
Ooh, what if it's the whole the blue people? We actually get to meet the blue people, and it turns out they're all jerks.
Plava Laguna was the only good one?
Yeah. That's why she was such a novelty. Everyone's like, "Ooh, this one's nice."
And
This blue person is nice.
well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's revenge for the death of Plava Laguna, and her family is
There you go.
powerful and invading. Yeah. And they want. Oh, and that's what it is. Is they wanted to clone Plava Laguna and bring her back, but it didn't work. And then they found out about the fifth element because they knew, from her involvement. And then they said, "Oh, we'll clone our own, and then we'll get our revenge because we can't bring her back, but we can avenge her." I think I'm feeling like Tony Stark at the moment. We may not be able to save the Earth, but anyway. So that'll be good.
We may not have been able to save Plava Laguna for Weekend Avenger.
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. And the bad guy, if we're on the Avengers kick right now, who better to play a bad guy? Come on. Can we bring him back? Loki himself.
Tom Hiddleston?
Tom Hiddleston. We love him.
Oh, Tom.
I miss him. I miss
You're going to
him.
say Frank Stallone.
No.
No.
You guessed it, Frank Stallone. No, but I feel like we haven't seen Tom Hiddleston in forever. Could we please get him back on screen and not a Thor movie? So,
Well, he's doing those commercials. Wait, he just did like 3 movies.
Yeah,
He's in a movie that's out right now.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of movies.
well, good. I need to see more dramatic
Yeah,
films. I guess.
just not superhero movies.
Yeah, it's all I know. It's all I know. What about for casting for Baby? Leeloo and Korben's Baby?
I'm pretty sure that would be the Gerber Baby Foundation.
Well, it
We'd
needs
find a
to be
Yeah,
baby.
a
twin.
baby.
Are there any celebrities that just had a baby?
No, celebrities don't put their
sure that-
babies in the
No,
movies.
no. It'll be a random baby we find.
It's because celebrities adopt
Generic
babies? Is that
baby
why?
that
Great.
knows how
and
to
for
cry
the
on
DVD
command.
pop-ups, we can say like, this is so-and-so celebrity baby.
Yeah, that's the whole. That'll be the whole purpose. So there's one thing you care about in the pop-ups. But otherwise, I mean, yeah. So, for the big bad, that's what we're looking for. Are you guys with me with Tom Hiddleston, or do you want someone different? Do you want a different take on? I mean,
No,
they're
I
going to
want-
be in blue makeup anyway.
I want older and gravitaser.
more gravitas.
Hiddleston's too physically
What about
active.
Charles Dance? Do you guys know who Charles Dance is?
No.
From
Tell
Game
us.
of Thrones. He was the dad Lannister.
Ooh.
And he's foreboding.
He is
and
not good.
Yeah, he's
He
all kinds of
is.
evil.
he's a bad man. He's a bad.
Oh, he's in Ghostbusters apparently.
Oh, really? But shouldn't they just be misguided?
Yeah.
Because they're fueled by revenge, but they're not an evil race. Well, maybe they are. In Jeff's opinion, turns out they're all evil. There was only one good one.
They're
So maybe
quick
you're
to
right.
turn evil to avenge.
Yeah, there we go.
I can't picture him. I could so not picture him as one of the blue people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
That would be interesting.
but maybe the blue guys are different than the blue women. You know, maybe they have a different.
That's
tint.
true.
They have a different body type.
Maybe they're pink.
Yeah. Well, not only that though, because the part
women are
that
blue
cracks
and the
me up
guys
is
are-
that because when you think about it, like the way that they built her costume is that she had that like cone on top of her head, so it made her even taller. Charles Dance is 6'3", so you put that thing on top of him, he's going to be like 7 feet tall, and that's going to be yowza.
What
I
if
mean,
the-
I guess that was the thing is that she was supposed to be so tall in the movie. So
Well, how about instead of the the long hair tentacle type things, what if the guys just have a big snout, kind of an elephant type snout, kind of like the little alien in
No,
Zord's
no.
office?
No,
you're
no,
never
no,
going
no.
to take anyone seriously with a big
Dreadlocks.
snout.
Oh, well, they gotta have some crazy feature. What do we want to give them? Do they just have a hole in the middle
I
of their
think
head?
Justin's right. What if they're
Giant
tentacle
ears, Dumbo
dreadlocks?
ears.
Well, then don't they become the characters from what was it, Battlefield Earth, the John Travolta film? Is that they were all dreadlocked?
No, because those were
aliens?
literally dreadlocks.
Okay.
No, make it instead the blue tentacles, but they're tentacles like hair tentacle looking things.
Do they move?
You know, so it's kind of more like Davy Jones from the Pirates movie, but
Yeah.
without the suckers in his face.
What about giant pinky toes?
They all have a
Yeah.
shuffle because of their giant pinky toes.
I'm sure we can figure this all out in post.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I think that's now, and we're sticking with the sixth element. We like that as a title.
Yeah.
we need
Love
we
it.
need a Lulu though.
Oh, but no. Lulu's
Don't we?
She's a clone. She's a twin.
Yeah, she plays herself.
Yeah, she's playing both characters.
Oh,
Milla
really? Oh,
Jovovich.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
because
Milla.
that was the thing too, and that was the thing too. Like even with Justin's pitch, is the fact that from the way I understood it in the movie is that they cloned it from like a piece of genetic material, so it was like she didn't look like that previously.
Right.
They just used the DNA to create a being, so you could use the DNA in a different way and create somebody that looked entirely different. She didn't have to look like that.
But isn't the
That
fun?
was just how the machine made.
Isn't it the fun that there's an evil-looking Leeloo? Like that, I think that's where the
Okay.
fun is.
I mean, I didn't know if you were doing
well,
a different.
because my original
we can do
concept
so
too
that-
is that it would be a man. It would be a man version of her, and that would be like an interesting. But I was like, no, evil Leeloo.
Also played by Milla Jovovich.
Yeah.
exactly.
Milla Jovovich can do it.
We believe. Okay. There we have it. The Sixth Element. Luc Besson
Done.
back to direct, of course. I mean, soundtrack-wise, again, it was mostly, I mean, it had a lot of interesting techno of the era. So I don't know if there's an equivalent now.
I think you got to, because the sound was so much a part of it, of creating the atmosphere
right.
and the environment. So you got to do something similar.
Well, it seems like Daft Punk is kind of like the first idea because they did such a great job with Tron.
Yeah, they could modernize that soundtrack.
But they're not so
a little
much
bit.
pop music. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah,
They're
that's
a
the only
different
thing.
style. Well, who did the original?
Well, but I think the original was like a
bunch of
mixture
different-
of actual techno and like orchestral score stuff. So I think it was existing. Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to get like a specific viewpoint musically, I'm trying to think of somebody right now that really kind of stands out on their own, but that is not just like as like a songwriter, as a musician, not necessarily as a performer. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not getting Katy Perry in there to do it.
No.
Necessarily.
Did they have? I mean, I guess they had a
She should
couple
make a
little
cameo,
weirdo
though.
songs. It does actually seem like a perfect movie for Katy Perry, though. Like she seems like she would want to at least have a cameo.
Well, she did that Alien song. Maybe that's the basis. Is it?
Maybe Katy Perry plays Lulu.
Hey, she can do it. She already looks like Zoe Deschanel, so she might as well just
How is that connected at all?
That's not. We're talking Milla Jovovich.
I know, but I'm just saying she looks like an actress, so maybe she'll confuse people. I don't know where I'm
There you
going
go.
with this.
Okay, the
She
guy
looks like someone that
cosplaying
can
as
act. She looks
Tony
like someone
Stark does
completely
not
different,
equal
but, you
Tony
know.
Stark.
Well, why don't we just get, who'd be good? I think he's due. He's controversial. People maybe not a big fan of him, but I think putting him on the soundtrack would make everybody's ears perk up as Kanye West, who was her collaborator on that song.
No.
But he's great, like production-wise. Like he really probably could bring an interesting sound to the film.
Jeremy says no.
Yeah, Jeremy's not on.
Not for ethical or moral reasons.
Did you hear what he did?
Honestly, I would love to see what Kanye did with a soundtrack.
I know, that's all I'm saying. Like as a
I don't
musician,
know. I'd be just afraid that it'd just be repeating his name over and over again. Kanye. Or something where it's just like, this has got to be all about me, folks.
I'm gonna let you finish. You're the Sixth Element.
Yeah,
That's my
if you
Kanye.
need to hear what Kanye does to music,
Yeah.
go listen to 4 or 5 Seconds. That's the song title.
Okay.
And hear what he did to Paul McCartney.
Oh. I'm not so precious about the Beatles or Paul McCartney.
But
if it was
still,
Kiss, I'd be
this
upset.
yeah. he would screw up Kiss.
Oh, don't do it, Kanye. Stay away from rock and roll all night, please. Well, Kanye, I don't know. What's our vote? We have to outvote Jeremy on this one. Justin and I are on board for Kanye. So Jeff,
I'm still with Katy Perry.
Well, then it's a collaboration. It's
There we
decided.
go.
Yeah.
There
They'll
it is.
split
Somehow
you
we've
out
Like
Outside
that
decided
song
upon
we were talking
disagreeing.
about earlier.
like Xanadu, Katie gets one half, Kanye gets the other, just like Olivia Newton-John and ELO.
And
Anybody?
didn't that turn out well?
Oh.
Hey, the soundtrack was good.
Was it?
We're getting into some dangerous territory here. Okay. Anyway,
Very different tastes.
there we go. So with that, I think that's our film. I think we can't say any more without.
That's all we can say about this movie.
Do we want to envision a poster?
In my pitch,
Two
the baby
Millas
glows
back to
gold.
back.
That's true.
It's-
One with purple hair and one with orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the Milla split down the middle and one half.
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, and the eyes.
Yeah, the
you
red
had the
eyes.
eyeballs
Yes.
being different.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
That'd be pretty awesome. And I think what it should be though is it's not like a Photoshop like cut. It's literally done with makeup. Like there's just a line that goes down her head that splits her, just as like a kind of an artistic modeling type image. So it's not just like, oh, we just put these two halves of her face together. It's like
we just cut it down. And
we literally created two different faces on her. I don't know. Be interesting.
I like that because then going with the movie with the cars and everything, that all wasn't CGI, it all wasn't done with computers.
Yeah.
Although it'd be hilarious if they shot the film that way, where they shoot her from one side and then she flips, or they change the angle on the camera, but you can see that she has the other hair on the other side.
That's something you would expect in Kanye, the musical.
There it is.
Okay, you've reached the end of this adventure, but there's so many more shows that you have not ventured out to see yet, or have you? So check back the archives, listen in, stay tuned for the next episode. Go ahead and check us out on Twitter at SQPod. Make sure you're visiting the website, SequelQuestPod.com. We can go there and check out the episode schedule and other additional items just to get familiar with the SequelQuest universe. And also, make sure you go over to iTunes. If you're listening to us on iTunes, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating. Put a review in there. Just tell us what you like, what you don't like. We've been getting reviews from around the web, and we say, who cares? But no, we don't say who cares. It actually does matter. Helps us improve the show. So go ahead and just let us know your thoughts. Throw it on out there. And who knows? We may read your review on the next show. So until next time, stay green.
How green?
Super green.
We thank you for listening to this episode of SequelQuest and invite you to continue the fake movie fun on social media. Submit your ideas for future episodes to sequelquestpod@gmail.com or SQPod on Twitter. The films and characters discussed on SequelQuest are the property of their respective studios and license holders. No copyright infringement is intended.
This has been a presentation of the Retro Network.